So insufficient, excessive, or even imbalanced consumption of nutrients is actually called malnutrition. The problems related to nutrition are mostly associated with imbalanced or excessive consumption, you know? People suffering from malnutrition often show poor physical and mental growth, disturbed body functions, and, well, they tend to have a weak immune system. Problems caused by improper nutrient consumption can really vary. Let's start with carbohydrates. Interestingly, a deficiency of carbohydrates doesn't really cause a problem, but an excess amount can lead to obesity and diabetes mellitus. Now, when it comes to fat, a deficiency can cause low sex hormone levels and malabsorption of fat-soluble vitamins. On the other hand, too much fat causes obesity and cardiovascular diseases. Moving on to proteins, a deficiency here causes Kwashiorkor. If you consume proteins in excess amounts, it can actually lead to nausea, diarrhea, and weakness. For fiber, a deficiency results in constipation, while too much fiber can cause weight loss. There are 3 common forms of malnutrition. First, we have PEM, which stands for protein energy malnutrition. Second, there's MMD, or mineral deficiency disease. And finally, OIN, which means over-intake of nutrients. So let's talk about the problems of protein energy malnutrition, or PM. PEM happens when the amount of proteins and energy a person consumes just isn't enough for what their body really needs. Sometimes, it can also show up when someone is getting enough energy but not enough protein specifically. PEM can lead to a variety of disorders in humans, but 2 of the most important ones are Kwashiorkor and Marasmus. These disorders are, unfortunately, most commonly found in children and infants living in poor countries, like some of the poorer regions in Africa. In these areas, a lack of food is pretty common, often because of famine. And these famines, well, they can be caused by natural disasters like drought, floods, or plant diseases. These disorders are sadly responsible for countless deaths in developing countries. Kwashiorkor is one of the main disorders caused by PEM. The symptoms of Kwashiorkor include swelling of the ankles and feet, which is called edema, a distended abdomen, thin upper arms, decreased muscle mass, loss of teeth, anemia, and even changes in skin and hair color, among others. Marasmus. The symptoms of marasmus are severe loss of body fats and muscle strength, dry skin, loose skin folds, gastrointestinal infections, and, well, a face that kind of resembles that of an old man. In a simple way, we can say that the child looks like a human skeleton. Mineral deficiency diseases, or MDD. If we are constantly short on some particular mineral, then, there are various mineral deficiency diseases that can occur. First, due to deficiency of calcium in the body, a disorder is caused called hypocalcemia. In this case, teeth and bones become weak. Pain in joints is another disorder due to deficiency of calcium. Second, iodine deficiency is the cause of goiter. It is a disease in which the thyroid gland present in the neck fails to form thyroxine. Thyroxine is a hormone which controls the growth and, many other functions of the body. Phosphorus deficiency causes bone and muscle weakness. Magnesium deficiency can cause muscle weakness, cramps, and nausea. Iron deficiency is the cause of anemia. In this disease, the hemoglobin molecules are not properly formed in the red blood cells because iron is the central part of hemoglobin. Due to the lack of hemoglobin, the oxygen is not properly supplied to different parts of the body. Deficiency of potassium causes nausea, anorexia, and muscle weakness. Over-intake of nutrients, or OIN. Over-intake of nutrients is also a form of malnutrition because it causes many health problems. If we intake more carbohydrates and fats, then the result will definitely be obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, and even cancer. Also, over-intake of iron leads to hypertension. Over-intake of fat-soluble vitamins can cause appetite loss, constipation, and excessive bleeding. Over-intake of water-soluble vitamins leads to birth defects, dehydration, and so on. and over-intake of minerals can cause nausea, vomiting, anorexia, and even depression. The various effects of malnutrition are as follows. So, starvation. It's actually a condition that happens when the body suffers from a lack of food for a prolonged period of time. The symptoms of starvation can include things like hair loss, poor health, unbalance, dehydration, and anuria. Due to starvation, the functions of body organs are disturbed. If starvation occurs for a long time, then the organs stop their functions, and, as a result, death is certain. Heart diseases. An imbalanced diet, particularly with more amounts of fats, will lead to heart diseases. This is due to the high cholesterol level in the blood. Constipation. If in our diet there is a lack of dietary fibers, then the result will be constipation. Constipation can cause cramping, nausea, irritability, and difficulty in fecal impaction. Obesity. If a person gains more weight than normal weight, then this condition is called obesity. Obesity is known as the mother of a variety of diseases. A fat body does not mean health, it may be because of malnutrition. It is a common observation that fat people are not so active, have a fast heartbeat, contain a fast breath rate, and so on. They also normally show some common diseases like diabetes, hypertension, heart diseases, and so on.